There we go. Woohoo! I think it's working. Very good. All right. I'm just going to make sure I'm live here. Just going to check while you listen to my little lion. Come here. Come up here. Come on. You want to see the camera? No? Why are you yelling at me? You're going to yell. You get on camera. This is my little lion right here. It's a new moon in Leo. Leo is the lion. Say hey. Okay. Maybe he'll quit screaming at me. All right, I figured out my live stream's working, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Downsize all this stuff, though. Close, close. And I'm going to share the chart with you. Today, I'm talking about the new moon in Leo coming up on the 31st, which is Wednesday. Today's Monday, the 29th. And also, Mercury will be going out of retrograde, and another shift. Yesterday, Venus moved into Leo. So we're going to be talking about all of that today. All right, let's take a deep breath. There is absolutely no point in astrology or most anything you do if you can't center yourself, be in the moment, and relax. I'm a big fan of relaxing, especially I think this Mercury retrograde has taught me I really should relax. So that's what I'm being intentional about right now, and I want you to be as well, because we need to be open to whatever messages are in store for us, and sometimes things come through that I don't even plan on. So I've done a lot of researching for this particular new moon because it's just interesting to me. So to start with, let me get my pointer out because I like to do a little teaching while I talk. And let me just say also that astrology to me, I get this spiel every time, is more like a calendar. By the way, if people could quit doing the Mercury and Gatorade thing, that'd be awesome. I mean, like, I get it, it's funny, but it's like making fun of a Tuesday to me, like, because Mercury is in retrograde a lot during the year. So every time that joke, I'm just like, okay, I get Mercury. Mercury is in Gatorade. That's just how I feel about it. Anyhow, astrology is a lot like a calendar, and it really reflects what's going on as above, so below. I mean, I'm of the opinion that I really love to be scientific, and science is my jam, and I love it so much. And then I also like to allow for possibility. And astrology has helped me a lot in my own life. It's helped me feel less out of control. And I think that any tool that helps you, go for it, whatever that is, any connection you have with a spiritual practice, a spiritual life. Atheists have rituals. You know, I don't mean you have to have, it doesn't matter. What matters is digging into yourself, being here now, experiencing life in the best way possible. And that's why I really like astrology. So I have to give that spiel every time. And I like for people to get everything that they can get out of it. And I think that there's a lot to gain from astrology. Now, there are lots of areas of study as far as astrology goes. Some people do Vedic astrology, which is completely different than what I do. I'm a Western astrologer. I don't generally do traditional astrology. I like evolutionary astrology. That's the school of thought that I come from, which kind of assumes past lives. It does, not kind of, it does assume past lives, and karma, that sort of thing. And it looks at your soul as something that can evolve to just be better, to be on the right path. We're talking a lot of Jungian philosophy. I'm a big fan of Joseph Campbell and the hero's journey. A lot of times I look at a chart and I see a hero's journey. So now that I've gotten that out of the way, we're going to talk about the new moon. So new moons in general are looked at as a start of a new cycle, a new intention. You can be setting a seed you're planting. And this particular new moon happens in Leo. And Leo is very heart chakra centered. Leo is about your creative fire, your identity. It is ruled by the sun. It is kingly, queenly. It is, I am sitting on a throne of who I am. That's Leo. And what's interesting about this new moon in Leo is it is happening this year whenever there's a lot of other outer planet stuff going on that is dealing with the past and restructuring our boundaries. And it's not necessarily connected to Leo. In fact, it's not just the moon and the sun in Leo this month. It's also Venus. She's moved into Leo, and Mars and the asteroid Juno. And Mars is something we call aspecting Pluto in a quincunx. And a quincunx is such an interesting aspect. So when I'm talking about aspects, I'm talking about the geometry of how the planets are related, how they talk to each other. So you basically build characters around planets and how they act. That's the sign. And then aspects to other planets are how they deal with each other. And Pluto is going through Capricorn, really restructuring our past conditioning, transforming what we've always done, the rules for ourselves. Saturn's there too. And Leo and Capricorn, Mars and Leo, quincunx, Pluto and Capricorn specifically, is very much, they don't understand each other. Mars and Leo just wants to forge ahead. It's a fire planet, Mars, our ego, our will, in a fire sign, Leo, our creative passion, our inner child, and it wants to move forward in that way. And it doesn't quite see all of this restructuring and transformation over here in our boundaries. And so I think it's going to be important to keep that in mind. And what's cool is Mercury, our mind, does see that. Mercury is in Cancer. Mercury is dealing with our inner security needs. It's retrograde right now, and it will be retrograde at the exact moment of the new moon. But it turns direct, I mean, not very long after it. Let's see. It's literally hours. It turns direct within the hour. Let's get it exactly. Why don't we? Because I would like to see. It's just that close. Oh, there it is. Okay, so the new moon is at 10:10 p.m. and Mercury turns direct at 10:57 p.m. So this is extremely auspicious and kind of humorous that it's still retrograde, but it's like that last minute of let's think a little bit about this. Let's keep in mind our inner needs and also the things we need to do in the outer world, the restructuring that needs to be done, the transformation we're going through in the way we secure our outer world, the way we do our work, the way we draw our boundary lines. That's very much an energy at play here during this new moon. So while maybe Mars doesn't get it, our ego's kind of striking ahead, our mind certainly is on our feelings and maybe how the outside world affects those and how we need to balance our inner world and our outer world. So another thing going on during this new moon is that it is square to Uranus and Taurus, along with Venus. I mean, they're pretty much right there. Now, Uranus and Taurus is transforming or really revolutionizing our value system, what we value, how our hearts connect with things, what we feel is important, what we feel is beautiful in our lives. And it's really changing that stuff. And that could happen from outer things going on that you realize you value certain other things that you used to not value. Maybe you value taking walks by the pond at lunch whenever you really used to value going and getting, get a quick nap in the car. So it can be simple things like that. But I looked at the Sabian symbol for the new moon, and it really, really speaks to this. So I'm going to share it with you right now, if I can pull it up. Yeah, here we are, Google Chrome. The Sabian symbol for, I'll look at the Sabian symbol for Uranus at this moment. And Uranus is a square. Let me just explain that. It's kind of in a conversation. It's creative tension. It's like, hey, don't forget this over here. This is important. So what is this? Well, let me read it to you. The woman of Samaria at the ancestral well. The meeting of the traditional past and of the creative spirit pointing to the future. This symbol refers to a most important, but usually narrowly interpreted episode of the Christ mythos. Early in his ministry, Jesus meets a Samaritan woman at the ancestral well. This woman belongs to a tribe despised by the Jews. Moreover, she is unmarried and therefore on the fringe of her own society. It is to just that kind of woman that Jesus reveals that he is the Messiah. I'm going to skip a little bit ahead to the actual overall meaning. It's no longer a collective cultural effort based on past knowledge, as in the preceding symbol, but a meeting that introduces into the collective situation a totally new factor which transcends it. A new quality of being is revealed, which renders the old patterns obsolete. And boy, is that really speaking to this chart. Old patterns, obsolete. Leo is the sign of, and let me switch back to the chart. Leo is the sign of the inner child. I mean, these are new patterns. And Uranus and Taurus is the sign of the earth. I mean, we are really talking about nurturing something very close to home right now. Our inner child, telling our inner child, these things are what we value now. And I care about what my inner child feels. I care about nurturing that. Uranus and Taurus, I'm flipping the script on my values. And these things are kind of in a creative tension conversation. Maybe your inner child is having trouble coming to terms with your new values or vice versa, and reconciling those things. And then relating the old patterns, we're talking Saturn and Pluto. So this new moon is very much forward-looking, very much a new way of relating to what our hearts want. Doing away with old patterns, away with old ways of doing things, and And it can't relate. I mean, in fact, what did this say? This said, okay, I loved this. The highest meets the lowest when this lowest is free from traditional bonds and open to love. The creative future descends first to that which has become chaos. An old order is never open to a new revelation until it has accepted disorder in the name of that power which subsumes all forms of order, love. An old order is never open to a new revelation until it has accepted disorder in the name of love. An old order is never open to a new revelation until it has accepted disorder in the name of love. So, I think the lesson that I'm trying to convey, and the lesson that this Sabian symbol is trying to convey, is speaking of the Bible and the story of Jesus, and I reference all sorts of different religions. I would like to say that as well. I don't just talk, but this is specifically the Sabian symbol, which they were come up with by Dane Rudyard. He channeled them for each degree of the zodiac. But the point is that Jesus, this person who's trying to bring in this new order of love, he doesn't reveal that to someone who's deeply ingrained in the old order of society. He reveals it to someone who is on the fringes of society. And in that way, you can apply that into your own life. You know, what areas of your own life do you consider to be on the fringes? That's something that you need to look at right now, because the old order is never going to give way to a new revelation until you look at the stuff that doesn't work with the old order. What has always been a different part of yourself? You know, different than something that maybe you haven't even ever been able to accept or look at with love inside your own life. That is what this new moon is really about. It's about fully accepting your overall identity, getting rid of past judgments that you have on yourself or that you've let society condition you into. You know, like, I don't feel like this is right. Well, who is that talking? Is that you? Or is that some old order that has put its claws in you and you think is your own? It is not. So, a great ritual intention setting for this new moon will be to really dig in and consider past conditioning, past judgments that you may have placed on yourself or have been placed on you, and look at how that contrasts with something in your life that you consider to be different, or maybe that you've never accepted in yourself. And how is that connected to what your heart really wants? How can you start to value this part of yourself, you know? And then an overarching theme that I would love to bring in is the importance of children and the earth here. I'm not going to get emotional. I could. It's right there, but I'm not gonna. We have a responsibility to children to take care of this earth. And I think having the Uranus and Taurus square to this new moon in Leo, you know, I think a lot of news stories are coming down about how grim the future looks, climate change, and it just seems like things can be so grim. And really looking to our children, and if we don't have children, there are plenty of children to be looked at. Okay, so if you don't have a child and you don't want to be a parent, there are still children in this world who are going to create the future, who we have to lead. And I think that, you know, is an important part of taking care of the earth and taking care of our own generation. You can look at the dichotomy between the boomers, and the new generation, and how they're just not communicating, not at all. It seems like one's blaming the other instead of realizing that we both really rely on one another. You can't transition into a new generation without the old really learning, and vice versa. So I really think that's a big part of the lesson of this new moon and the lesson of the Pluto-Saturn conjunction coming up in January. And I would be remiss if I didn't talk about it. It's likely that during this new moon, we'll feel things go forward in a big way. Mercury will be out of retrograde, and Jupiter's starting to station. Jupiter will be out of retrograde August 10th or 11th, I believe. And I think we're really going to feel some forward motion starting then, even though we've got other retrogrades going on. I think Jupiter, Mercury are big to make us feel like we can move forward with some of this healing. The new moon is also trying to Chiron. And so is Venus, which is the wounded healer in Aries. And that's really another way of looking at this, is accepting ourselves, accepting our identity, accepting our creative fire, and being able to put it out into the community, So yeah, I think that's about all I wanted to say. I think really up until January, a lot of this is going to be shoveling crap in order to get to the gold. I mean, or digging in order to build the foundation. So a lot of this is a lot of work, a lot of internal work, a lot of emotional work, a lot of actual outer work, And the North Node will be in Cancer for another, I don't know, few months. I need to look at that. But I mean, it's calling for a lot of nurturing our inner security. How are we balancing that with the outer world? A lot of getting rid of childhood conditioning to really bring in a new world. So don't discount the emotional work that this is taking. I mean, there's so many shocking things going on in the outer world. Social media is showing us all of these things constantly. We did not have the way information is disseminated now is completely different than it's ever been in our entire lives. I mean, you're talking, it went from the printing press to radio and TV, which were still a very few sources of information being disseminated, right? And now it is just this absolute huge world, and it can really depress people. But I mean, I think the other side of that is showing us what the world is really like. And that's going to create a lot of inner turmoil, a lot of inner processing, a lot of adjusting to how we deal with the outer world. And I think that's what the whole theme of the rest of this year and beyond is about. So each new moon, is going to be very important. We're really looking at each little bitty sliver of our lives. And the new moons are a really good way to do that, because it takes you around your chart and it's like, where is your new moon in Leo happening? That's where this is going to be centered in your life. So, yeah. If you would like to know where it's happening in your chart, get at me for a reading, a session. I really like to call them sessions because I don't feel like, I mean, I'm reading your chart, but, or interpreting it. But I like to have sessions with people. We really get in there and we breathe and we connect and we talk. And I make sure you have your cup of tea or coffee or whatever comforts you. And I do the same. And we just talk about your life, So if you really would like to know a little more about your own personal experiences, just hit me up. I hope this has been enlightening for everyone. You can email me ecstaticastrology@gmail.com. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, and I'm on Twitter and YouTube, I think. Take some time in the next day or two, this is exact on Wednesday, to really do something for your inner kid. The kid inside of you is always screaming for something, like mine the other night was like color, and I don't color, but like I was just really like, I felt the need to color a page. So I went and got a coloring book and I colored, and it just really made me feel better. I'm talking things like that simple. If you need to go hike, go hike. If you want to go swim, go find a way to do it. Go to a movie, do whatever your inner kid wants you to do, especially if it's creative. That's something that Leo is closely associated with. Also, you could take the time to talk to a kid. They always have a very different idea of the world than adults do. That would be another good exercise to do for this new moon. So happy new moon. Enjoy Venus and Leo. It's very dramatic. It really wants to be pampered, and have some attention shown to, what you value, your creative fire. I love you all. Au revoir.